Let's talk about digital painting, and this really starts to get to advanced Photoshop work, advanced raster editing, and of course we're using Pixlr in today's little demo. I'm going to use a stripped down version of Photoshop, but they are essentially the same and all the tools are the same. In fact, even right here, this was the example I worked up for one of our recent projects, and it took quite a lot of photo painting. So we're talking about shadow, highlight, trying to make everything look like it appears together, like it should be together. So anyway, let's open up Photoshop. And I have a photo that I chose. Again, we're photo compositing, meaning that I'm putting bits and pieces of different photos together. And it would appear that my old Mac is moving very slowly this morning. There we go. There we go. All right, so let's find our photo. Here it is, right here. Okay. And in this case, I liked the image, and it served my purpose, but it is black and white. So let's see. Okay, and then let me bring in my other photo. Let's see, where did I put it? Ah, yes, here he is. Good old SpongeBob. Now, for the demo today, and just for simplicity's sake, I'm using a PNG file with the transparent background. I do not want you guys to do this. Take the time to try to pull something out of one photo with some cutting, copying, some good selecting. And in Photoshop, you have the same tools, your magic wand, your lasso tool, and those are the tools that you would use for it. But just for simplicity's sake, like I said, we're just going to use the photo of SpongeBob. Okay, and like in Pixlr, you can take your selection and invert it. In Photoshop, it's inverse. But so now I've got SpongeBob picked. I'm going to just cut him out of here. Poor SpongeBob. And then I'm going to paste him into this photo. There's the old fella. Okay, he's way too big. So let's just shrink him down some. And because it's a color photograph, when I pasted it in here, I'll tell you what, let's do it this way. I'm going to go ahead and delete him because there was one other thing that we needed to discuss, and that was making your bits and pieces that you're putting together look like they belong together. So let's see. Boy, the old computer is working slow this morning. So let me delete SpongeBob. Yes. And I'm going to take this and convert it back to a shucks. Let's see. Undo grayscale. Okay, so the computer is now reading this as a color image. Let me see if I can paste him back in here without, there he is. Okay, we want him in color because this is part of our conversation this morning. So let's get SpongeBob sized properly. And let's see. Here he goes, he's getting there. And this happens in Pixlr a lot too. Of course, in Pixlr, you got to go to Free Transform under Edit. So here's SpongeBob. Let's see, how big should he be? There, we can maybe put him right there. Okay, so SpongeBob is now in there. one of the things we have to do, and you'll notice that I have this layer selected, we have to make the new stuff look like it fits with the stuff that's already there. And this is an extreme example. In this case, I would just take SpongeBob and turn him to grayscale so that he looks like he belongs. Sometimes you'll have one photo that's really rich and saturated in color, and you bring something into it that's very pale by comparison. The color's kind of faded, and you have to change one of them so that they look like they belong. And again, SpongeBob here is an extreme example. There's a couple things we could do. I'm just going to go to adjust hue and saturation. If I take the saturation all the way down, although now poor SpongeBob's a little dark. Let's try to get him. Let's try to get him so that he, and again, it's a guessing game. I'm going to come to image and see if I can't convert him to grayscale too. I don't want to flatten it yet. So let's go do what we were just doing. Adjust color. I'm going to go to the saturation. And remember, saturation, more saturation, he gets more colorful, less saturation, just the opposite. Okay, so we'll take him there, but he looks very washed out. In Pixlr, brightness and contrast, same thing. He looks kind of gray and dark. I'm going to lighten him up just a bit, and I'm also going to increase the contrast just to get him to where there's a little more variety. So there's middle values. You got light, you got dark, and now some middles in there. So that looks good. Now, one of the biggest things by far is trying to get the light and the shadow correct. So in the original photo, the light is coming from this direction. We know this because on the subject here, the form shadows as they call them, the shadows on this side of the hat. So just like the moon and its phases, the light's coming this way, so the shadows go this way. Down here, the light's coming this way, the shadow goes this way. The shadows on the object, called the form shadows. The object that comes off of the object onto something else, the cast shadows. So we have got to take SpongeBob and give him some form and cast shadows. So let's see what we can do with him. I'll put him back in a little bit. I wanted to turn him. Okay, so let's go in and look at SpongeBob a little bit. I'm going to take a guess as to the light and the shadow. So the light's coming this way, and the highlight on him probably is around this other side over here that we can't really see. So as the light's coming this way, probably this side of him right here is going to fall into some light shadow. And let's see what we can do about that. We might darken him down just a little bit. Go into brightness and contrast. Maybe knock down the brightness just a little bit. Where this becomes a lot more obvious is over on this side. And again, he's easy. I'm using my magic wand. Try not to take too long doing this. This is where we're gonna darken him down quite a bit, because that is the shadow side. And what we then really have to do, the shadow on her was really pretty dark. We have to darken everything down, so the little dark spots, let's see what we got here. And sometimes that magic wand is not going to select what we want. In this case, these little spots, I could just paint them by hand. That magic wand, it'll come in, and if colors are too similar, or right here there seems to be a little break in it. Let's see, let's look at this for a sec. I think if I take the tolerance, and in Photoshop it's the same thing. If I take the tolerance and lower it, it might just, select the parts that I want. Raise the tolerance up again just a bit, rather lower it. Nah, that's not going to do it. Okay, so let's Let's see what we can do. I'll go ahead and just hand paint it. Now, whatever I was working on last, I had a huge brush. I do not want that now. So, let's see. As in Pixlr, if you grab a brush and you want to select a color, just pressing down, I believe it's Control in Windows and Mac, it's Option. So it selected my color right here. I need to change this to a hard brush. Let's see how that looks. Whoa, way too big. Way too big. How's that? That's still too big. That's too big. 5 pixel brush. That'll work just fine. Okay, and let's kick up the opacity. This was set from something that I was working on a little bit ago. And you can do this in Pixlr too. You choose your color and you can come in and grab a darker version of it. That's where it's showing me my color is, so let's choose a darker version. And I'm just going to come in and color the dark spots on them a little bit. Okay, this one may be one little guy. Here and here. And there was one little one down. Let's see. One little one right here. Okay, also, his arm, in this case, is on the shadow side of him, so we got to darken that down too. So let's go in and knock his arm down. Wait a second there. Cancel. What did we do? Oh, it was doing it. I didn't notice this little shadow that those guys had put in there. So let's go in there and do what we were just doing. Lower the contrast a little bit. That is not getting as dark as I would like. So let's go in here and paint that as well. I think probably it would be something along these lines. So we can go ahead and paint that dark. And then let's come in and, let's see. There we go. And we've even got to paint his hand dark too. So let's see. I think I'm going to have to hand paint that. Let's select it. And let's raise our tolerance a little bit. So there we go. So let's paint SpongeBob darker. So he's a little bit darker. His yellow skin color, a little bit darker than his white sleeve. Not that dark. So let's lighten that up a little bit. Maybe right here. Actually, and again, just taking guesses at this stuff. I don't know. Let's see how that looks. Okay. And deselect. Let's come in and see how he looks so far. Alright, there we go. Now I have to do the same thing with his legs. Let's see what we can do with him with the legs. Now the legs are like the woman was over on the other side. So that his pants, and for me, I do like using the magic wand for this. And I'm just imagining where the shadows might fall. Listen, not an easy thing to do. It takes a lot of practice. So I'm imagining that there's a little bit of light hitting the top of his, let's see, the top of his little stick leg there. Okay, and then the shadow is on this side of his pant leg. Let's see what we can do about darkening it down. It does, let's see, maybe about right there. Let's see what that looks like. It did not give him any shadow right here. Let's see, we're going to darken that down just a little bit more. Again, just taking guesses. So let's take brightness down just a hair more. That looks good. Alright. And we can do the same thing on this side. So I'm imagining here up under the edge of his pants. Let's see. And right there. Let's see. Darken that down too. That looks pretty much in line with the other pant leg. We're going to have to go in and look at his leg right here, which he's getting pretty pixelated, but my best guess at this now would be to select this area and hand color the shadows. And sometimes you just have to. So let's go back to our paintbrush, and not knowing how dark to make it, I'm going to take the opacity, and again you do exactly the same thing in Pixlr. You can adjust the opacity, how see-through it is. Okay, that's pretty good. Again, just taking guesses at it. And let's go in and look at his other leg. Yeah, he definitely needs shadow on this leg too. Okay, come back out and look at that. So he is starting to look like he belongs here. I can imagine that his eyes would take a little shadow on this side. Again, the light's coming from here, and while it's not hitting him directly on this side, the eyes will tend, anything that's round or sticks out. I like using the polygon lasso. Some people prefer to use the hand-drawn, the freehand lasso. Okay, now again using shift, I'm going to come in and select a similar part on this side. So this is the form shadow that we were just talking about. Form shadow being that which is on the form. Now his eyes are white, so the shadow on them is going to be a little bit lighter than what we had before. And I'm going to imagine, well, I'll tell you what we do. We're going to go in and work with the opacity a little bit, probably knock it down just a little bit more, or maybe a lot more. Okay. And his nose would take the same treatment. Again, it's sticking out, and probably a little bit of light is pouring over it from above. We know the light is above, it's the sun. So we'll give that the same treatment. And then we've got the eyes are going to cast a little shadow this way because they're bulging up off his head. I can imagine real easy that we might see a little bit of shadow that's out here, just coming off the eyes a little bit. Now, I'm kind of making SpongeBob more realistic than he is in his famous cartoon shows, but done just to illustrate that this can be a pretty good challenge. Now his teeth and his tongue, since they're inside of his mouth, we need to darken this stuff down a little bit too. Or at least his tongue, it's nearly white. So let's darken his teeth down. Choose a bigger brush for this. Okay, so let's see. Tongue gets darker, teeth get darker. And let's have a look at him again. So the last part is going to be, you can see she's casting a pretty strong shadow. Let me go ahead and put him where I want to put him. And I'm imagining maybe he's sitting right here on the steps. So now we go in and look. The shadow is going to be cast this way. So if I look at it, I have to imagine his legs casting a little shadow. And for me, by far I have the best luck just going in and drawing this stuff by hand. Very similar to how you would do things if you were actually drawing it by hand. And let's see, his shadow, I can imagine, again, if I do it this way, it means the sun's coming from this way, so his shadow is going to be cast this way. And then up these stairs. And then back this way again. And probably about right there. And this whole shadow thing is a bit difficult to do, taking guesses. And I'll do shadows sometimes and they just absolutely don't look right. So let's see. For instance, I took this too far. I'm imagining probably it's going to be coming back from about right there. I'll come back and cut that off. So the shadow's falling this way. And listen, gang, you have to do this kind of stuff for years before you can take really good guesses at shadow. What I would like you guys to do would be to just give it a good try. Around his fingers, out this way. Okay, that's good, that's good. And we're almost finished with this. Now his shadow would stop right there at the edge. I want to take this part off, so let's see, it is Alt, I believe, in Windows. In Mac, it is, you see the little minus sign. In Macs, it is Option. So let's see, I'm going to cut this selected area out of here. Let's see. I have to find the, there we go. Okay, so there's the shadowy area. Let's go in and adjust the lighting a little bit. It's probably going to get quite a bit darker. And in this case, I would back out of this area. Let's go to OK. I'd back out and compare it to her shadow. Okay, so this, to me, this looks just a tiny bit darker than this does. So let's go in and adjust that under lighting. I'm going to brighten it up just a hair. That's pretty close. Okay. And then you'll notice that she gets a little bit darker right behind there. And so for this, I'm going to come in, look at this shadow, and then right up against the edge of him, I'm going to come in and, let's see, probably just choose black for this or something close to it, and then knock the opacity down even farther. Get a soft brush, something along these lines. It's too small. Let's do 21. That's pretty good. Okay. Let's see, 15 opacity. And again, it's only going to paint where the selection is. Okay, good. And then his little heel is hanging down right here. So let's go in and do that. I'm going to take my lasso tool. just guess that this little part of the shadow is dipping down right here. Okay, I'll do the same thing that I did before, where we go to enhance the lighting, brightness and contrast. Let's talk about knocking the brightness down a little bit. It needs to be a little darker than that to match this shadow. Okay, let's see what it looks like. Deselect. Yeah, it's pretty good. And then this leg, let's see, it's going to cast a shadow this way. It might barely fall. Here, I'll show you why. And again, this is just an educated guess, but this shadow right along this line, so somewhere in here, he's going to have a shadow that's dropping down this wall. And I'm guessing that's going to be about right here. And then, let's see, his leg, if we're going at the same angle this way, that might be the very end of the shadow for him. Let's see. Now his toes sticking up. And I can't emphasize this enough. You're talking about trying to get some pretty complicated effects with the shadow. And I'm making a mess of this right now as far as... But I can go back and clean it up. That's no problem. So if we do that, and right here, very good. Let's go in and knock it down. And we said that it's about like that. That looks like it matches. Okay. Let's deselect it. And then let's go in and... Yeah, I'm not crazy about this right here. Probably just that bit. So let's go in, and there's several ways you could do this. I'm actually just going to come in and do it with the magic wand tool. I do, however, want to... Okay. Let's lighten that up. Here we go. Enhance. And brightness and contrast. I'm going to lighten that up just a hair so it kind of fits with the stuff around it. Okay, let's come back and look at it again. There he is. There's SpongeBob. Alright, let's deselect it. And the last little bit that you would do would be to, let's flatten the image. So it's slightly different in Pixlr, but you're wanting to go to flatten. So now it's all one layer. And I'm going to come in and just see if I need to do any cleaning up. Any pixels that need to be cleaned up. This is a good opportunity to use your smudge tool. So I might just to soften this up a little bit. He's a little pixelated. Okay. And again, all this stuff, just educated guesses. That looks pretty good, I think. Okay. And I'm going to call this part done. And come in and save it. That would be just fine. And I'm going to choose a PNG file. I recommend that you guys do that as well. Let's save it. And done. If my little wheel stops spinning. Perfect. So, that is that. Thanks for watching, gang.